of New Orleans about certain street closures tomorrow so that they can be prepared in making their travel plans and moving around the city, because there are a number of planned demonstrations and or marches that are scheduled to take place tomorrow. And we just want to make the citizens aware. We encourage everyone to be safe. We encourage everyone to be patient and be prepared for disruptions tomorrow in response to several planned protests and march activity tomorrow. There are large demonstrations scheduled to take place beginning tomorrow morning and at multiple locations. Those locations are Congo Square, Lee Circle, and Jefferson Davis at Canal Street. The New Orleans Police Department will be there to keep people safe, and we will be out in force to protect our city's people and to protect our city's property. We certainly respect everyone's right to assemble and to protest peacefully, and we will do everything in our power to keep everyone safe while we let them protest peacefully. However, we will not tolerate violence and we will not tolerate threats. To protect the rights of everyone to peacefully protest, and in view of the documented threats that we've received that were made against a number of people and a number of groups, we will establish divided areas in public protest spaces for each side to protest or for each side to occupy at each of the sites. The planned demonstrations will result in disruptions to traffic, and NOPD will be closing a number of streets to car traffic within 1 block of Lee Circle. Those road closures include the intersections of Calliope and Carondelet, St. Charles and Calliope, Howard and Carondelet, and St. Joseph and St. Charles. So what that means is 1 block in all directions of Lee Circle, traffic will be closed. We will have officers there to divert traffic and to show people where to go to get them away from the area, but citizens should be aware that that area will be closed. The streetcar line will not be running for a certain time. We will cut it off at around 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, and so citizens will have to make alternative plans to move in that area. Here's a very important note. Guns are forbidden by law at these protests. Our officers will be out, and we will be responding accordingly to protect public and to protect public safety and to enforce the law. Given the scale and the intensity of the threats and the scope of the anticipated crowds, this is absolutely being treated as a Homeland Security situation. And so at this time, I want to bring up Erin Miller, the Director of our Homeland Security Office, to give you more details.
Good evening. Our law enforcement and intelligence partners have what we believe to be serious and credible threats of violence planned around scheduled protests tomorrow. As a result, the city continues to treat these events as a Homeland Security operation. We're working with state and federal law enforcement authorities, and we will take all precautions necessary to protect all individuals. We want to remind protesters that law enforcement will be enforcing all regulations related to protests. As the Chief mentioned, masks of any kind are prohibited at protests and demonstrations. Weapons of any kind are prohibited at public demonstrations. We encourage every citizen to remain peaceful and safe in their protest activities. Any person that does not have business in the protest areas that were mentioned by the Chief should avoid those areas during the protest times.
So once again, we certainly believe in First Amendment, we certainly believe in Second Amendment, and we believe that people should have the right to assemble. What we also believe in is people obeying and following the law and being peaceful and being organized. And so we want to work with everybody, but we want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to protest, to have a demonstration, to exercise their right, but we will make sure that everyone is safe, and we will do everything we can to ensure that safety. And we will be taking swift and strong measures against anyone who attempts to disrupt that delivery of public safety.
Let's take just a few questions.
Chief, you talked about individuals being threatened. Can you tell us who that was?
Well, we can't give you specifics about who was threatened, but we have credible information about individuals who were threatened, about groups who are being threatened, who continue to be threatened. And so we're taking measures, working with state, federal, local agencies to make sure we identify people, but to make sure that we provide public safety so that everyone is safe tomorrow at these planned protests.
And what's the NOPD's take on out-of-towners that are coming in to these protests?
We want to make sure that they're aware of our laws, and so we will do what we can to communicate with the leadership of those organizations to the extent that we can. to make sure they are aware of our laws here in New Orleans and in Louisiana. But we want to make sure we create space. We want to make sure that we create a place and space for people to exercise their First Amendment right to assemble and protest. We understand the issues are intense. We understand these issues are they're touchy with some people. We want to provide public safety. That's our job. And so we will communicate to the extent we can with all of the groups to make sure that they're organized, but that they understand that we will not tolerate violence, we will not tolerate threats, and we will take swift and certain action against anyone and everyone who commits any acts of violence or any threats of violence.
Can you talk to me a little bit about open carry and how it relates to this situation?
It is certainly people's Second Amendment rights, and in this state it's open carry, but it is not allowed at demonstrations. And so we have a law that prohibits open carry even at public demonstrations, and those citizens and or people who live away should be aware of that. What we're going to make sure of is that while people are exercising their right to protest, that anybody that we see take an act of aggression toward anybody with a firearm or otherwise, we're going to take swift and certain action.
Chief, the ban on weapons at protests hasn't been enforced with the protesters over at the Davis Monument. Is this going to be policy going forward? Are weapons going to be banned there from now on, or is this just for the sort of mass demonstrations tomorrow?
So we want to make the law known to those who live here and to those who are visiting here to protest. We want to make them aware of the law, and we're going to give the discretion to the commander on the ground to make sure that we deliver public safety and we keep everybody safe. So the decision and the capacity to keep everybody safe, I'm relying on my commanders on the ground to inform me of what they're seeing real time to make sure people are safe. If the decision requires arresting people and removing them because they're becoming agitators, we will do that.
One more.
Given the certainly disruption, violence that we saw earlier in the week at the Davis statue, how are you guys going to control and actually separate these groups? It sounds like a lot of groups, some on both sides, are coming down here specifically looking for a fight.
We're in coordination with our state and federal partners, and so we're using every resource available to us to make sure we have ample coverage, ample police presence, high visibility, and ready response to anything that may happen tomorrow. So we certainly are prepared, but we want to send a strong message out there. We're just not going to tolerate violence. We're not going to tolerate threats. And anybody that we see take an act of aggression, we're going to treat that as an act of aggression, and we're going to remove them, have them arrested immediately.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good night.